Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, depends where you are in the world. I am Neve, the founder at Leaders for Accessibility. So if you are able to hear us from the attendees, please do let us know. Let us know where in the world you are joining us from. I'm based in Ireland. We have lots of people from the US, from the UK, joining us as well. So if you're able to just say hi in the chat, let us know that this is working, that we're on. Where in the world are you? And I suppose what else do we want to know is what are you doing? What do you work in? Let's say. So we've got Canada, UK, Manchester, Sweden, Ireland, Italy, lots of Italy, India, great. Germany, Denmark, Ireland too, Sligo. Hello from Sligo. So we've got lots and lots of people coming today. So as you can see, we have a lot of people on our panel. We have a lot of people on our panel today, a lot of really expert people in the area of accessibility. We are joined with Hector Minto from Microsoft, Jacqueline Tolisano from Salesforce, Naveen Tadini, CEO at Evinced, as well as Yossi from Evinced, and Darren Round from Eli Lilly, all highly experienced tech professionals, all highly experienced accessibility professionals. The wealth of experience and knowledge that we have in this room and the amount of learning and knowledge that you can get from these guys in 1 hour is going to be kind of phenomenal. Going through a lot of their profiles, going through a lot of their professional experience. We have people like Hector working with assistive technologies from 1998. Naveen has been a product leader since 1999, now gone on to raise over $100 million, I think, by my calculations, for Evinced in order to help people with workflows, with accessibility. So I don't want to do too much talking today. I'd like them to introduce themselves as well and to tell us a little bit more about what they do and what they do in the world of accessibility. Hector, you're the first person I see here. So if you want to just share something about yourself and accessibility, that what you're doing in accessibility, that would be great. And you're on mute.
Somebody has to do that once per webinar, my fault. So hi everyone, Hector from Microsoft. So I lead a program which is essentially focused on how do we empower the whole tech sector. That means across all industries to drive much more proactive conversations around accessibility. We do live in a world where digital and tech professionals around the world don't include accessibility in their workflows. And when we think about the largest employers, the largest businesses, all of the industries that touch people with disabilities around the world, we see it as part of our role as Microsoft to really empower the tech sector to go more proactively after accessibility, particularly as the world digitally transforms. How many of us will be able to cope without digital accessibility in years to come? We really see this as one of our corporate responsibilities. My background is not as an accessibility professional, and I always I weirdly kind of feel a bit of a fraud when I turn up to these events, but I've worked with people with disabilities and their assistive tech for 20 years before Microsoft, and then came into the accessibility space. And I can honestly tell you, the assistive technology world never spoke about the accessibility world, and vice versa. There's this crazy kind of, breakdown. I'm consistently trying to talk about 3 horizons of accessibility for all organizations. And I would really encourage any of you, wherever you are in these horizons, to look both left, right, forward and backwards. Any organization in the world has to think about, does its employees or do its stakeholders have the tools to be able to do their jobs? Okay, the assistive technologies we rely on every day. Each organization in the world has to have the skills and the technologies to build accessible experiences and know what they're doing to build accessible experiences. And then each company or organization in the world has to be able to deliver accessible experiences to its customers or its citizens, the people using its services. And all too often, people are not looking across all 3 of these. They're kind of working in one. And so I really see it as my role at Microsoft to drive that thinking, to make sure that all organizations in the world are thinking, across all 3 of those horizons.
Great. And somebody's commented that they're loving your longer beard as well, Hector. Jacqueline, welcome to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm Jackie Tolosano. I'm Senior Director of Product Accessibility at Salesforce. I am about to hit my 3-year anniversary at Salesforce in April, but I've been in the accessibility space since 2012. I started my accessibility journey at the Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton, Massachusetts, an organization that is still near and dear to my heart. It's a nonprofit that teaches newly blinded adults how to relearn how to do things in a non-visual way to regain their independence. An amazing, amazing organization. And then I took my skills to a little insurance company called Optum, and I spent many, many years there, almost 6 years there, building their accessibility team and helping them to achieve scale. And some of the things that I specialize in are operationalizing accessibility and helping to better achieve scale, which is a significant challenge for large matrixed organizations such as Optum and Salesforce. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Great, yeah, and I know we have a lot of people from Optum. There's a lot of people in accessibility in the Optum team in Ireland. Yeah, the guys in the accessibility in the Optum team in Ireland do a lot around this as well, and community events. So Optum really go for it. Naveen, let's come to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Naveen Thadani, and I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Evinced. We are a digital accessibility technology company. We focus on building products and technology to help enterprises, mostly large enterprises, operate their digital accessibility programs at scale. So we've got, tools to help them with design and with development and testing, and I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of that later. But that's a little bit about me. So back
Super.
to you, Eve.
Thanks, and we have some comments there that we love working with Naveen and his team, so shout out to you for that. Darren, yeah, if you'd like to turn on your screen there, I don't know if it's working.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, we see you.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. You can see me okay? You can hear me okay?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Darren Rowan, and I lead digital accessibility at Eli Lilly and Company. So we're a global medicines company based in the US, but I'm here in the UK. I lead a team that have people in the US and over in India as well. How I got into this stuff, I suppose, was me speaking out about my own experiences, really, in terms of I'm visually impaired. And after several years in my company, I realized that, hey, I was working around issues all the time, and somebody needed to bring those to the attention of others. So I created an employee resource group like 10 years ago that has now got over 3,000 members globally. And then I basically proposed we have a global disability strategy, which then evolved into me being the program manager for that accessibility program, of which there were several work streams. One of those being digital. So I sit in the tech organization in my company, and the evolution of that program effectively meant that I said, hey, we need to move now to really embedding these great things we've been doing around engaging and equipping people in our company. So now we need a digital accessibility team. And that's where I ended up leading this team from about 2 years ago.
Super. Yeah, and I think what I mentioned at the beginning for everybody in the audience, this is a highly talented, experienced group of people. So to get all of them together for this short amount of time, taking time out of their day is amazing. We also, Yossi is on screen there, working with Vince, but do you want to introduce yourself, Yossi, and then you're going to give us some tech highlights in around 30 minutes.
Sure, that's right. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Yossi Sinet. I'm the chief scientist at Evinced. I'm going to let Naveen do most of the talking for Evinced today, and I'll do the presenting.
Super, thanks so much. So I have there on the screen just what we were going to, what the title of today's talk is. And what we're going to try cover in a very brief amount of time is, I said, the role of AI and accessibility, or the new role. Has it changed in the last few months, in the last year? its impact, how AI has impacted our processes, from making your user experience, your technologies more accessible, from even just your own productivity tools, benefits for your teams and user experience if and when we can use AI. The drawbacks, of course, we'll have to talk about some of the concerns people have. We'll get the technical demo from Evinced and Yossi, and then some opinions and maybe strategies and tips and techniques from our panel on what success in the future looks like. What we really like to do in these events, if you've been to them before, is share practical tips, takeaway tips, tools, techniques that you can implement almost as soon as you leave here today as well. So last year we had a webinar on AI and accessibility as well, and I posed this question to the group: how do you feel about AI and accessibility in one word? And this is a sharing of some of the ideas and the feelings that people had. It really ranged from amazed to worried to optimistic to excited. So I'd like to even pose this question to our attendees. So in the chat, the quick evolution, when we think of AI, maybe we're thinking about LLMs and generative AI in the last year. But where are you now in terms of your mindset, in terms of how are you feeling about AI, and specifically AI, how it can help with accessibility? So attendees, please do write in the chat what you think about it, and also maybe what your role is. Are you working in product design, development? So we're the first ones in are all positive. We have useless, so we're going to have a whole range of different things, but I'll stop sharing my screen now and pose that to our panelists. So when we think about AI, maybe when the general public think about AI now, maybe we're overrun with the thought that it's generative AI and LLMs, whereas Naveen, for example, with Evinced, you've been using AI much longer than we've just heard about ChatGPT. So talk to us a little bit about maybe your feelings on AI and what it can do for accessibility.
I remain extremely optimistic on AI and its application specifically for accessibility. And Niamh, you're absolutely right. Since the day we started Evinced, which was back in August of 2018, we knew that AI in a broader sense, at that time, we were looking more at computer vision and machine learning models, a lot of which are actually in our products today. We were using them as a way to be able to detect more critical issues, blocking issues for assistive technology users fully automatically. That was our initial use case for computer vision and machine learning models. And a lot of them, as I said, are still in our products today. With the evolution of generative AI, it opens up yet more interesting possibilities and opportunities for us to introduce efficiencies into the development process. In fact, we're going to show you some of that a little later today, just to spark some thoughts and get some feedback. But yeah, I mean, from our perspective, this has really been a seminal piece of technology that we're very optimistic about.
Yeah, and a lot of the comments coming in are optimistic. So maybe the people that are here today are because they want to use it, rather than the people that haven't registered are the ones that are afraid of it. Jacqueline, come to you as well, that in Agentforce, AI is quite at the forefront. And I did read things about you trying to make sure that your AI interfaces as well are quite accessible in that sense. So your camera's gone off there, so I'm just not sure if you're hearing me.
Okay, I can hear you. I can still see my camera. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're back.
I am. Okay, good. Yeah, so obviously AI presents an exciting opportunity in the accessibility field at large, but we have a greater responsibility to make sure that this emerging technology is available for everyone, right? So it poses the biggest opportunity to close the gap for people with disabilities to be able to, independently do things, right? So it's a game changer for them. But if we don't do it the right way, we're actually going to create a larger gap where they're going to fall increasingly farther behind. And so our work at Salesforce is that we embed our resources to work with these product teams to ensure that all of our AI products are as accessible as possible at as close to GA as possible. And we're also working with the teams to ensure that our data sets are tested, toxicity testing and bias testing and things like that. So we're doing extensive user research to ensure that all of these models that the technology is training against do not inadvertently contain biases against marginalized communities.
Yeah, excellent. And actually, just as you say that as well, somebody in the chat has mentioned about AI bias, which we might come back to. I'll go to Darren there as well. And Darren, you kind of said that your work in accessibility stems from having personal experience as well. So I suppose in two ways, is AI helping you from a personal perspective as well as from a professional?
Well, it's helped me massively, I would say, in terms of both independence and productivity. Plug for one of Hector's products, but Seeing AI I've been using for, well, since it came about, really, to help me pretty much on a daily basis, just that independence aspect of pointing at various things. If I even have something on my screen, if I experience the blue screen of death or something, I can always point my phone at it and it will read those things to me that I couldn't do before. I'd have to rely on somebody else in the room or in the office or whatever. So I think those kind of things and tools like Be My Eyes as well, similar type of stuff where you can really get much more detail about what it is that you're looking at, but then follow up with more questions and sometimes go off down a bit of a rabbit hole. But so I think those independence aspects are really important. And obviously we're moving into other areas like wearables now and how that becomes even more just, it kind of part of you, if you like, as you're walking down the road and you can use it to navigate your area as well. I think from a productivity perspective, both personally and a lot of people who I work with, again, tools like the Copilot, which would have been in the past challenging for me to make something that looks good from a presentation standpoint because of the visual aspects and how the layout and all that good stuff. And now you can just, literally put your notes together, which I would often do anyway, and then you can just pop it into something like Copilot and it can pop up with, however many slides that you've sort of said and give it those instructions. It's done in like literally a minute, and your ability then to just tweak around the edges, saves you so much time, and that then when you multiply that across your organization, multiple people are doing similar things, either extracting information from large documents, getting to the bits that you really need, I suppose, is the bit that I find and many others, especially in the field of neurodiversity, have found particularly useful.
Yeah, great. I suppose there's many applications, like you said, from the personal. I'd also like to say you're not working for promoting Copilot and Microsoft here today. It's just a coincidence. Hector, your camera's gone off. I don't know. That could be a problem there. So
I'm still here. Can everyone else see me?
It's a good back to it's a good
okay.
segue over to you. And I suppose Microsoft have been doing quite a lot on things like this, like a lot of the other companies as well. Like you said at the beginning, it's part maybe of your corporate social responsibility. It's that it's just what companies need to be doing now, but there's multiple aspects that you guys have been bringing in as an organization outward for user experience, and anything for you internally within your teams.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're after the one word, it's probably inevitable, isn't it? I mean, I think if we look across society, it's coming, and what we've got to make sure is that the experiences and the needs and the requirements of people with disabilities are included in this digital transformation. I love what Jacqueline said earlier about kind of, you've got to make sure you're still doing the basics, right? You don't get away with building inaccessible buttons on software, right? AI is not going to do that for you straight away. The skills of the accessibility professional are still absolutely key to ensure that people with disabilities have access to the products. But the innovation that's coming through the products that, is going to be AI driven. Everything that we're seeing now is AI driven, from customer service to education apps to banking apps. AI is going to be at the absolute kind of, underpinning so much of that, which then takes us to the conversation we'll have later around, the bias, the data, the experience, the inclusion of people with disabilities in the fabric of the organizations and the companies building these tools is going to be so important. But maybe if I can just bring up, it's that it doesn't stay static. It doesn't stay still. Nothing is unfixable in terms of the data. And if you look at, say, something, for example, like the captions on this Teams call right now, I remember when they first came out and there were people saying, there's just no way that this is going to be as good as humans, in the future. It can't cope with accents. It can't cope with people talking over one another. And yet it can. It's like the product evolved. The AI model changed. The amount of data we had on different speech, people with accents, people with unclear speech. What we're now going to see, if I was going to predict what's coming forward, is that generative AI means that things like stammering will be something that we can really start to cope with in captions and things like this. So it's inevitable, it's never changing. But Darren mentioning Seeing AI is the perfect starting point, because Seeing AI was Saqib, a blind engineer, and his team driving what they wanted the technology to do, and showing very early in AI how you needed to build AI models that represented the lived experiences of people using the product. That's going to be the trick that society finds difficult, I think, is to make sure that we do have that representation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I was going to get to it a little bit later, but I think maybe some of the people that are mentioning is what you touched on there as well, is that we have to have processes around things. And somebody there in the chat, Karen, said that there are some people, some bosses that just think the AI can handle it. Just add something over to it there and forget about that human insight. And I suppose that's where maybe some of the trepidation and fear and worries come from some people, that you're just handing over something completely to a system, any technology system, but there still needs to be human, maybe intelligence and insight around those things, and so I suppose Naveen, maybe you could.
Sorry, Niamh, can I just give one example that absolutely shows that one off? But so when we first put automated image description into Office, so people put a picture into a document and we used AI to describe it. It wasn't great, but we still did it. But the learning of the team that put that feature into Office was, at first they just did it in the background and hid it, and nobody changed the descriptions. We just kept the poor AI descriptions in the images. The product team learned from the feedback that they had to bring the description to the front end so that people could check it and then edit it. And then we got more editing to create better image descriptions. So what we shouldn't do is let a poor experience stop people from getting going on it, because the data is going to constantly change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I was just reading somebody's thing there about, I just want to call out something, because we have quite a large group of people kind of calling in from Europe, and Europe is probably not as advanced in accessibility solutions and tools within their organizations as maybe in North America they are. And so with the EU Accessibility Act coming in a few months, it is very easy for people to Google solutions and see things that say, with these few lines of AI code, then you're going to fix your entire technical stack and you're going to make your user experience accessible. So somebody just mentioned their overlays. So I just want to highlight that as a concern, that if something is saying it's going to fix everything with AI in a few lines of code, walk away. Let's say I see Naveen smiling as well at that. So it is important to highlight so people don't just kind of fall for those quick solutions. Yeah, is the solution to it that quick, Naveen? Let's say. The overlays plague me. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm not a believer at all in this overlay approach. AI or no AI, I don't think it works. I don't think that's the right approach. And you know, the broader concern that I have around AI. First of all, I'll preface this by saying I'm extremely optimistic about it. We use it, we see the promise, we know it's going to happen. But for people that are concerned, there are reasons to be concerned in the sense that the macro concern is that all of these LLM models, these AI models, quite frankly, they don't know accessibility. I'm talking about code specifically. There might be other areas as well, but let's think about code for a second. Today, you have AI models that generate code for you, for developers, and it makes them extremely productive. And I think that's an amazing thing. But unfortunately, all these models that are trained to generate code, they're trained on what? They're trained on open source data from the internet. And open source is amazing and it's wonderful. But one of the things it's not known for, unfortunately, is being accessible. So it stands to reason that the code that's produced by these code generation AI models is not very accessible. So that is one area to be concerned about. You can think of it as a bias, if you will, at a machine level here. But we are, as a company, we're focused on mitigating some of these deficiencies, and we're tuning off the shelf AI models with fine tuning them with deep algorithmic prompt engineering and other things like that. We can control the output. We can force these LLMs to create accessible code. So that's the kind of thing that we think about. Those are some of our concerns, and that's how we're looking at mitigating them. I think that we're already at a point today where AI can add a lot of value, but there is more work to be done.
Yeah, and simple suggestion. We just need to train on accessible code. And so that come back to you, Jacqueline, you mentioned about training the models and trying to remove some of that bias, that inherent bias that might sit in there. I think as well, sometimes with the generative AI now, we put a lot of value on speed, on quantity of output, maybe rather than quality of output. And it takes maybe professionals that know what they're doing and looking at to see the difference.
Agree. It's garbage in, garbage out, right? So it definitely depends on the quality of what the technology is learning, right? And it's just going to spit out what it learned, regardless of the quality of what it learned, right? And so therein lies the danger. And and everybody is trying to rush to market with their latest AI thing because everything is AI and it's the exciting, frontier for everyone, right? And in that rush to get products out the door, then some of these things are forgotten about or maybe not prioritized, where if we delay something a little bit to ensure the best output or the highest quality output, then and then obviously really put it through all of those tests, right? You have your toxicity testing, you have your bias testing, and looking for all those, not just accessibility, right? And it's always important. Paula Gold, and one of our EVPs, she coined the phrase "human at the helm," right? So there always needs to be a person that's checking these things, and then iterating on them and constantly improving it so that the output is high quality, it's safe, it's unbiased, and we're mitigating risk as well as making sure that it is as accessible as possible.
Could you just give a bit more of an explanation there when you say about toxicity testing?
Yeah, so people assume that technology is inherently neutral, but technology is created by humans, and humans are not inherently neutral, where we have our own unconscious biases or we have our own, limited purview. And so we could find inappropriate things within what the machine is learning from that we want to avoid, right? And so there are some inflammatory languages or assumptions or word choices that can be dangerous, or they can, speak to something we never want the AI to learn. So racism, bigotry, things of that nature. You can find some pretty inflammatory stuff. And again, the machine doesn't know the difference between good and bad. The machine doesn't know that it is outputting a bias or inflammatory language of any kind. And so we really need to ask it questions. So toxicity testing is us asking it those awful questions to see what the response is, to make sure that the response is a quality response that is speaking from a moral and ethical perspective.
Yeah, and a comment there, scary, but a great point. And I suppose one area that's really important is maybe in your conversational tools, your conversational AI, rather than just maybe creating the code for a button or something like that. Darren, I'll come to you and just talk about, I suppose we mentioned some of the things that overlays from a personal perspective as well. You said you've got like 3,000 in your ERG group as well in your organization. And so how has some of these AI tools maybe impacted you and your team, from an employee standpoint, as well as the user experience, the end user experience of your customers?
I think internally, I gave the examples earlier about how some of these things are being used across the enterprise, regardless of whether people have disabilities or not. But I think almost like AI is, well, ubiquitous, right? It's now just become part of all the assistive technology. It wasn't the thing that drove it before. It's now been integrated into it. So I use JAWS, other people use similar things in my company, and now that has an ability to describe pictures, which before, if you got those in your email that were just pasted in there, you stood like no chance, basically. So no alt text, and therefore you didn't know it was there, or it just said something like graphic 2473. Now you've got the ability to look at those things through the AI and get more of a description. The challenge, of course, is that when you work in a large organization like ours, is around security and privacy and making sure that all these things now are being funneled through the same, AI sort of registry that we have internally, which, as you can imagine, as touched on earlier, everything pretty much has got AI in it now, as well as the new solutions that you are building in-house. So it's like those kind of things that were being used maybe before as assistive technology. It's not that we're blocking those, but then the question around, is it okay? What models are they using? Where is it going to when people are accessing this information with the data that you are, what level of data you're accessing with that in your company? So it does then cause more kind of internal systems churn, if you like, as we try to work through those things. We still want to really learn how people are using technology externally, almost like in their day use, and then therefore how could that be brought internally, which then again, it's like, how do we experiment with that without causing us any risks there? Because I think that makes complete sense in terms of what people are most familiar with, will enable them to continue with being as productive as they can be in the workplace. In the type of industry that we're in, a lot of our, although we're focused on ultimately the patients we serve with the medicines, a lot of interactions are mainly with our healthcare professionals across the globe. So it's still very limited in terms of the use of AI because of some of the issues that it could possibly pop up with. So we keep a lot of our work around AI specifically to the scientific area around molecule discovery, those sorts of areas where we've got our own internal LLMs for those sorts of things. But yeah, I think we need to be extremely careful when it comes to people using AI just to help with deciding on what sort of level of healthcare somebody might need or get to that place. But I do think at the same time, the use of AI in aiding things like diagnostics for things like cancer and other sort of neurological conditions is undoubtedly going to speed up a lot of the things that we've seen historically taking quite some time and being quite problematic. So it's kind of always on that balancing place, if you like, when we think about AI in terms of trying to help get on that accelerated bus, but then equally being careful about what it is that we can feel is approved for general use.
Yeah, great points there. And I think it comes to some of the other things I mentioned already. The Accessibility Act is coming, so a lot of companies now are starting to think about their technology, their tech stack, how it interacts with users. And I suppose companies need to think about if they are creating products for the general public, but also products that are B2B and going to be used by employees. As we have a question there around using AI in accessibility audits. And actually we can come to Yossi now in a moment. So Yossi, if you're there, and like I said, one of the things that European companies are probably jumping on, oh no, the law is changing in June, we need to find quick solutions and we need to do it quickly now. When really the reality is you need to find solutions to be put in place. You don't, by June 28th, it's not that everything in your organization has to be accessible, but you have to be on the road to and the path to. So Yossi, are you there? You can hear us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, if you want to share your screen, and you can take us through a little bit about some of the ways that Evinced can help with workflows and testing. I'll
Sure.
leave it to you if you want to share.
Let's get into that. So I think, we're because this is a webinar about AI and accessibility specifically, we're focusing on some of the AI things we're doing and playing around with in our own labs. Some of these products are kind of almost ready, some of them are not. So we've got a couple of things to show you. One is, a sort of, I think of it more as a developer tool or a developer guide, if you will. You see, the way that most accessibility programs are built these days, the legacy way of doing it, is that it's built around a COE and around training. So you provide training for product managers, developers, test engineers, designers, etc. That's great, and that should always be the case. And you have a center of excellence where you have people with accessibility knowledge, there to help and advise and answer questions and things like that. So that's how people have been doing it. But the challenge is that all of these different constituents, like product managers and developers, designers, and test engineers, they all work with the center of excellence. And in the best case that we've seen, there are 200, let's say, developers for every one accessibility expert in the COE. So the accessibility COE starts becoming a bottleneck, and it often takes days, weeks, and sometimes months in order to be able to get back and truly help a team that needs help. Often those teams don't wait because they can't wait. They have to ship products. And that's why you have inaccessible code going out there, not because people don't want to do it, but because of these bottlenecks that are built into this, model. And with AI, we see a future where all these constituents, whether they're product managers or developers, designers, they're armed with the right tools to help them bake accessibility into their jobs. So it's like a little genie that's sitting on your shoulder and telling you as a designer, you need to make sure your states are correct, and this is what's missing, and this is what you need to do. And as a developer, here's your code, something's broken, this is how you go ahead and fix it. That's how we see the future of AI, at least from a software development perspective. So what Yossi is going to show you right now, Yossi, is he's going to pretend to be a developer. Well, he is a developer, but He's going to pretend in the demo to be a developer who's working on a, I don't know what, modal dialogue. Is that right, Yossi? And
Sure.
and some of your tests have failed, and now you as a developer need to go and fix this. So you want to just talk us through what you're going to do?
Sure, absolutely. I guess first of all, a bit of a shout out to Microsoft and GitHub here, since what I'm demonstrating is a new events extension to GitHub Copilot. Enables you to essentially chat with our accessibility assistant or chatbot from within the VS Code IDE, from within GitHub Copilot Chat. So I can ask general questions about accessibility. So ignoring the fact that I have a modal open right now, I could ask, what is a live region? And I'm talking to events because I've put at events at the beginning of my request. And while it's responding, I guess this is a good moment for me to mention, Naveen talked about earlier, and I know that there were questions around how do we avoid bias and things like that in large language models. So Naveen talked about how we've used some fine tuning, some RAG techniques, as well as prompt engineering in our chatbot to make sure that it's answering accessibility questions without hallucinations, without providing misleading information. And obviously we've done a ton of work on kind of validating that against evaluation data to make sure that its responses include the things that it's supposed to include. So we've got a general answer about what a live region is from an accessibility perspective. I'm now going to switch to asking a question about this modal dialogue. So I'm going to say...
While you do that, Yossi, I think it's important to point out this was a general question. So if I were a developer and I had this question about a live region, I would typically pop it into a Teams or a Slack chat or something, and then wait or open a Jira ticket for my accessibility team to get back to me to help, or I'd be Googling around trying to figure it out. So it always used to take a lot of time, but here in just a fraction of a second, or a few seconds, you get an answer back immediately. You don't have to wait. Now, that was the use case that Yossi just showed you, but here's another one which deals specifically with the code that the developer is working on. So go ahead, Yossi.
Yeah, so I'm asking, please help me fix an accessibility problem in this component. The focus did not move when the dialogue was opened. And you can imagine that this might have been something that I got from, a ticket, or maybe from in this case, from one of Event's other testing tools, which actually analyzed this modal dialogue and brought up the issue with it. Or
a manual audit or anything, yeah.
Exactly. And so we've got some code back. So it's saying, recommending for us to use something called useEffect to basically move the focus into the dialogue. Actually, one of the nice things, again, about this being in GitHub Copilot is that, and again, this is a shout out for that I can now actually apply this change in my editor. And then this is using Copilot Smarts in order to actually create a diff, which so I can actually now view in my code kind of what the additions and changes are that have been made by the bot in order to make sure that their focus moves into the dialogue when the dialogue opens. And I can also ask follow-up questions. So maybe the focus is also not trapped. Can you fix that? And essentially, I'm going to get a response detailing that as well.
And I think this is an important thing. While it's working here, it's important to point out the first question was a generic question. This is very code specific, and the answers that you're getting back from this AI technology is actually code, which is super useful. This is not something that accessibility COEs typically do because they don't have the bandwidth. And a lot of times, sometimes they don't come from a JavaScript development background, so it's harder for them to fix that code. Sometimes, even if they could, they just don't have the time to sit down and review everybody's code and do it. Here, this is now infinitely scalable across the organization because it's powered by this AI technology.
Super.
Go ahead, Yossi.
So Naveen, should we jump to the...
Let's check with Neve. Neve, do we have any time left? We've got one more cool thing to show regarding design.
One more cool thing. Yeah, I think people are enjoying it. There's a few questions. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so while Yossi is pulling that up, I'll just give you a bit of an overview here. Obviously we have a lot of designers, they work in Figma. And the goal for most designers that we've spoken to, from an accessibility point of view, is to be able to have this perfect handoff to developers. You want to make sure your design has all the accessibility information in it, and you want to be able to hand that off to developers fully annotated. The problem is, if you look at a very simple, like think of a login form, okay? It's got maybe 10 different annotations that you need to do, a few input fields, a button, maybe a couple of links or whatever. So that's easy enough to do. But the moment you start increasing the complexity of an application to make it look, more like a traditional web application, now all of a sudden, in even a relatively simple web application that Yossi has on the screen here, you've potentially got close to 100 different annotations. And it's very hard to do this manually. So much so that most of the designers that we've spoken to, when I ask them, what percentage of you have a fully annotated design system, the answer is almost close to zero. And it's because it's hard to do. And this is another great application in our view of AI technology, where you can now auto-annotate the entire design that you have. So what Yossi is going to show here is a prototype of something that we're visualizing and working on in our labs right now. This is not available, so we're not trying to sell anybody on it. We're just trying to show the kind of things that are possible with AI going forward. So let's say this is my design, and I want to make sure that I include all the landmarks. So all I need to do is open the design assistant here and click on add landmarks, and it's going to automatically analyze this image using AI and add the navigation, the header, the main components, and some sort of a form. Then the next thing I want to do is, analyze headings or roles and labels. You can just go ahead and do all of it at once, or one by one as we're doing here. But as you analyze all these different things, now look at the way all these annotations pop up fully automatically. And they're really detailed because you'll see if you move the design assistant a little bit to the left, and you see even in the table, it's not just saying it's a menu button, for that little 3-dot thing. It's saying the accessible name should be additional actions for Alan Kane, for example, or Gilbert Johnston or whatever. So all of this, imagine as a designer, you focus on the design, and then you open this thing up, you click on it, and it's automatically going to annotate all of this for you. It's going to be available in the design. So when you hand it over to developers, it's this perfect handoff. This is what it should look like. This is what the accessibility characteristics of this design should be. And all of it can be done fully automatically. And I really like what Jacqueline was saying here earlier, human at the helm. The designer is at the helm. They're going to look at this thing, and they're going to figure out whether it's done correctly or if they need to edit it a little bit. But the amount of time and the Herculean effort that it saves in getting all this accessibility information in here is just huge. So we think this is another example where accessibility can, AI can be used in the design phase of accessibility as well to just get things right from the get-go.
Super. So you're right. That was cool. We're getting a lot of comments there. There are a few technical questions around some of those things. There's some of if people have more technical questions, I've put a link there that they can sign up for maybe a one-to-one demo there. One question was, does it work with React Native mobile development testing?
Mobile. So as far as the design assistant products and stuff, that family of things is concerned, it does not support mobile yet. But Neve, I want to leave this to you in terms of how we want to answer questions and all of that. You can invite your audience to hit us up one-on-one via email. We can set up some time with them, certainly. But I want to make sure we use the time how you want to use it. So.
Yeah, I think there's a few technical ones there that could get that would probably be better for maybe one-to-one meetings. So I've put the link there in the chat, because one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning of before that people commented on was a lot of the time there's 100 engineers and maybe one accessibility professional, and they don't have, maybe everything has to go through them, from development, from design. And some people in the comments said, yes, what you're doing is governance. You're not able to look and check all of those things. Of course, it's great if you are working in some of the organizations like you guys, Salesforce, Microsoft, Eli Lilly, where you have accessibility teams. One thing was that people said, well, just hire more accessibility experts. I would say I set up this network for education awareness because there's 8 people that work in accessibility in Ireland, and the majority of them, 3 of them work for Optum, and so there's still that lack of awareness. So if we can put the tools in the hands of designers, of developers, and start to give them some sort of knowledge, even if it's low level, entry level knowledge, then everybody's on board with the same kind of mindset there. So we have 10 minutes left if people want to ask. A lot more than 8 in Ally in Ireland. Okay, there's probably, officially though, they're titled, there's not that many. I hope there to be more, let's say. But if we've got more questions for the panel there, then please do pose us, and I'll take a note of those technical questions and pass them over to Yossi, Naveen, to collaborate with people on that. So
Sure.
Yeah, I suppose the future success, what is the future going to look like, maybe for teams that if you could give advice to organizations maybe that are here, probably don't have an accessibility department, but they want to get going on this thing, what should they start to think about? Jacqueline, I'll come to you on that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that even with the team that we have at Salesforce and the team that is well represented here from Optum, it's still very, very challenging to scale accessibility. So even if you have multiple people, or you're a smaller org and only have 1 or 2 people, it's always thinking about the enablement aspect and upskilling as many people as possible, right? To really focus your energies on training designers on how to incorporate accessibility best practices within their design, encouraging them to take courses. DQ University has a great program that they could take courses and learn about accessibility specific to their role. Designers and developers, teaching them how to do their own validation testing that has really strong ROI with limited upskilling required, right? So keyboard testing is something that's very simple for us to make sure that all of our developers are utilizing, because you can find a lot of things just by putting your mouse away, for example, and without needing to pay for expensive JAWS licenses. So it's really about the enablement and focusing your energies there, and then really focusing on those top success criteria, those top 10 bugs that you see time and time again, and educate them, and so that you're mitigating the likelihood that those bugs are going to continue to come back into your products over and over.
Yeah, great. And what one person mentioned there as well is about having an empathetic leader, and it really starts at management level. People that are not at management level can upskill and improve their own knowledge by attending things like this and going to events, but still it's about management and bringing in those processes. Hector, your camera's off there, but I come to you just on maybe other tips for people who want to bring it into their organization, mindset at least.
So the mindset, I think what you just said, the sympathetic leader or the empathetic leader, I think is definitely the bit that's missing from most organizations. What I would recommend though is people look for a series of empathetic leaders, right? You know, if the sales team in any organization is thinking our product now needs to meet the European Accessibility Act and we can't sell it unless it's accessible, then that's a sales leader talking to a technical leader about their deliverable to them. And then if you link it all the way back to the employment of people with disabilities, the more you talk to HR leaders and desktop technology leaders about making sure that people with disabilities have got the tools they need, you drive a need for accessibility, from accessible training courses internally to accessible documents for colleagues Darren was talking about earlier. Well, there's an opportunity, I think, for you all as people kind of more focused on what I would always call that horizon 2, the skilling, the testing, the rigor of accessibility, to make sure that you're linking what you do to the kind of the wider agenda within an organization, which is to build diverse organizations and build products that really meet the need of citizens who use your products. Yeah. But all too often when I kind of hear people crying out for an empathetic leader, they're only looking for their own leader and not looking left and right to HR and right to sales and marketing and brand. One bank that I will not mention by name because they haven't given me permission to, but I just look at them and I just sit there and I think they got into marketing and drove it from brand marketing, and that pulled through all of the accessibility testing and knowledge and delivery and skilling within the organization. Don't just sit in your own silo. Don't just look for your own leader. Kind of look left and right is what I would always say.
Yeah, and I think that there's lots of amazing tips in there. And people saying the tools first, maybe not. You need good leadership. You need mindset. You need buy-in as well, and it can be put throughout the organization. It doesn't only need to be the developers, but all of them. Some of the banks are doing great work as well. And there's another question there about, has anybody done a study on the ROI, the impacts of accessibility? So that's Brittany maybe. So that's one thing that I'm very interested in and that we're working on. So we have a couple of just seconds left, and I'm just gonna a couple of minutes left, and just to say that this has been, super, but we do have lots more events coming up, and so what we have next month then is so on the 24th of April we will be talking with Kat Noon from Stark, Philip Strain from Miro, and Anna Zaremba from eBay, and we'll be talking about design and accessibility as well. So what we're really all about here is sharing the expertise of amazing professionals that have given their time to us today. There's a lot of questions there, and that's what these events are really for. So we're going to follow up with that. And although tools aren't the main solution, I think it's mindset, it's buy-in, it's leadership, it's all of those things. It is also important that your employees and the teams that are quite large, that they do have ways to assist them so they're not overburdened. Another conversation in accessibility is also around burnout and things like that. So one thing that we're going to have coming up to June and the Accessibility Act will be a tech showcase. So if you are somebody in the comments, if you're somebody here that has a tech solution or tech solutions, people have mentioned their Wave free tools that you could use, as well as the larger enterprise ones, then please do get in touch so we can start to share the knowledge of more tools that are out there. So I'm just going to put a link there for our next event if you want to join, and also if you want to join our newsletter that 10,000 people are getting our newsletter every week about what is happening in the world of accessibility, then please do sign up there. So we are, I suppose, just on time. We have heard from, I'm really pleased and feel really honored that all of you have taken time out of your day. I think you're amazing professionals that we all can learn quite a lot from. I will follow up with the recording of this, and I will follow up with people who ask more specific questions, connecting you with Yossi and with Naveen and any of the others that are there. So please do join our next events, sign up for the newsletter, and I hope to see you all again very soon. So I hope this has been a good use of time in your day today. So thank you,
Niamh,
everybody.
and thanks to your community as well. Really appreciate it. Have
Thanks,
a wonderful
everybody.
day. Bye-bye.
Have a
Neve.
great
Thank
day,
you. Bye.
everyone.
You.
See you soon, Darren.
Bye.
Thanks, Neve.
Thanks, Hector. Chat soon.